So this is the card we're going to make today. Now this is a flip card, and I did a bit of research yesterday and I found there's a couple of different styles in the flip card. So this one here, the cut is actually on this outer side, which means that you're decorating within that circle, and when you open it up you've got a blank section here. With this card here, the cut is on the opposite side, but when you open up your card, your decoration's actually inside the card. So I just thought this was a much more appealing card for me. So I thought this was the way we would go today. So let me just get rid of that card because we don't need to see that one, because this is the one we're going to make. So how did I make this card? So we had to do a partial die cut, and I'm going to show you what I did to be able to do that. So I'm just going to pop my card up there for the moment, and I'm going to bring in my cardstock and my dies. So let me just empty all of this out so we've got everything here and handy. Oops, just one die doesn't want to leave its safety of its packaging. Okay, got it all. So what I've got here is 2 circle dies, and one of my dies, which is the largest circle in our circle dies, and as you can see I've put a couple of markings there on there. The way I did that was I grabbed a piece of the this piece of scratch paper, which is all in centimeters, and I lined my die up going from that 1 centimeter mark there, and it's just over 10 centimeters in width. So what I sort of just did was I just brought it over a little bit until that sort of, you don't have to be 100% accurate, but I tried to get it as accurate as I could, where I've got this die sort of nesting in between that 10 centimeter mark, and then that told me that that was going to be my halfway mark just there. So I've just used a Sharpie and I've put a little mark top and bottom. Now if you don't like to keep those marks there for future reference, if you use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, that will remove those marks off. So that's what I just did with that. So that just gave me that halfway point in my dies. So let me just move that out of the road. So with this card, I'm using a card base which is 14.9 by 21 centimeters. And what we're going to do, sorry, I've moved everything around today, so I've just got to find everything. Well, I've put it all. Everything's got a new home. And I do want my little ruler. If we can't find that one, I'll use this one. That's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a mark from this left-hand side edge here. Now remembering this is 21 centimeters wide, and halfway mark is at 10.5. So our quarter of this is at 5.25. So I'm just going to put a little mark there at the bottom at 5.25, and I'm going to add another mark up the top at 5.25. And then we're just going to draw a light pencil marking. Now use a fairly lightweight pencil and a good eraser, because you may need to rub that out. And we're just going to draw a faint line. Now just to give me a bit of an idea, I'm going to put another little mark along that quarter mark or 5.25 line at about 2.5 centimeters, and that's where I want the top of my circle die to go. So what I'm going to do is then take my circle die and line that up, those marks there, those halfway marks, with that pencil line that we have just drawn in. And I'm going to grab some of my post-it note tape and adhere that down. So let me just remove that one. We don't need that anymore. So the top of my circle I've got at that 2.5 centimeter mark that I made just there, coming down from the top of my cardstock. And I've got those marks that I've placed onto my die, which is half my die size, on. I've lined that up with that pencil line. Now I can't see any comments or anything on my tablet, because as we've had, we've had issues with my tablet because it is so old. But I will catch up with any comments or anything that you have about this card after the video has finished. And this video I will also be placing on my YouTube. So now I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine. And just before I put that right in front of us, we need to layer these plates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my cardstock with my die on top of that plate. Now this is where the partial cutting is going to happen. Now remember, we said I wanted to cut this portion of that circle. Okay, so I want to cut this side here only. I don't want this side to be cut. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge. Now I played with this yesterday because these plates are slightly beveled at the edge, but it doesn't make any difference. What you want to do is that finished edge of your plate, you're going to line up with that pencil mark. If we wanted to have this cut, then we actually would line up our plate that way, because we only want to cut that side of it. So what I would do is I'd bring that across and put that through like that. But for this purpose, I want to cut this side of my die, so that's going to go across there like that. So it's just going to be, that edge of the plate is going to be lined up with my pencil line. So let me just bring in my cut and emboss machine so you can see what's going to happen. I hope you can see this okay. We're going to place those 3 plates on there with my cardstock, and remembering I only want to cut this side, so I'm going to bring that out and I'm going to line that up with that pencil mark, and then just slip that in, making sure that you don't move that plate too far off that pencil mark. Okay, everything's in. So I'm just going to grab it at the bottom and start winding. And let's see if I can get this right. Oh, my plate has moved, so let's have a look. I might just try that again. Let's run that through again, and this time I'm not going to bring it backwards. I'm going to just take it straight forward. You don't really want to do this sort of thing with your dies, I've found, too much, because what will happen, you're putting a lot of pressure on this side of your die, and eventually your die can start to bend. So this is not something I would be doing if you're wanting to do 20 or 30 of this style of card. It's not going to damage it where you can't use it. I have got another die, a floral die that I've used for partial cutting, and I did quite a few of them just trying to get it right. And I have got a little bit of a bow now in that die, but it still works okay for cutting something flat. So it's just be aware that you will sort of give your, I mean, I can see this now, it's sort of slightly has got a little bit of a curve in here. But if we look at our cardstock, I've now cut that at that side there. So if you're going to be doing a lot of this partial die cutting, especially with your circles, you know, maybe get yourself another set just to have spares. If you're going to be doing a lot of this sort of thing, so you can just have one set of dies just for this. Okay, so that's our circle cut, and now I'm just going to get my eraser and just remove those pencil marks. You are going to cover it up with designer series paper, so it's not really important that if you don't get rid of those marks completely, but it just does keep things nice and neat. So now we're going to score our cardstock. So we're going to score it at 10.5 centimeters. Make sure our cutting blade is right out of the road. So we're going to score it at 10.5, and then we're going to pop this on at your 5.25. Now you can do it very carefully with your scoring blade there, or if you'd like, you can grab your bone folder and just run it down that groove until you hit your cut. And the same here, run it up the groove until you get that cut. So I'm just going to do it also with my trimmer, because again we are going to reinforce that little area when we put our circle dies on there. So we can now fold our card. Now normally we would fold that way and then over that way, but with this one here, sorry, where's my top? I am going to fold it with my valley, fold it the opposite way to what I would normally fold my card, just for the fact that it does make it a little bit easier. And then we're going to flip this, so that's where you get the flip from. So normally when I score this and I've got a valley there, and that would actually go to the outside of my card and the mountain to the inside, but I've actually, for this particular card, just swapped that around. So I'm just going to burnish this a little bit more here, just to make that a nice crisp fold, and that one also. So there's our flip card. So now we've made that, we're just going to start to decorate our card. So we've got one more cut to do, and that is with our designer series paper. Now with my designer series paper, I'm using a piece of designer series paper which is 10.5 by 14.4, and the reason why it's a little bit wider than normal, because I've got my edge all around, and I actually am going to finish up with, if I measured from here to here, it's 10 centimeters. But I wanted just to have a little bit of the designer series paper going underneath, just so then I didn't get like a little bit of white or something showing up there. So it's just going just that little bit more under that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece of designer series paper, and we're going to cut this piece here at 5 centimeters. So we're just going to cut this in half, but not equally in half. So we're going to end up with a piece which is going to be 5 centimeters and 5.5 centimeters. Now I'm just going to trim this back a little bit to maybe 5.3, because I don't really need it that much to go through. So I just want a little bit. So I've got a 5 and a 5.3. And we can adhere those now, or here that 5 centimeter piece is going to get adhered to our card, sitting right along that fold line, but giving you an edge around there. So you can grab either your multi-purpose glue or your seal, and I'm going to use my multi-purpose glue because I do prefer that, so because it allows me some slip. Now, because I am using a striped designer series paper here, I do want to make sure that I'm keeping my stripes matching. So as you can see, now I'm going to line that up with that fold line. So I'm just going to fold this just to make sure that is nice and flush with that fold line there. I don't want to have to be trimming things away. Yes, beautiful. And I'm just going to run that over with my bone folder. Okay, so I've got my mint macaron at the top there. When I put this piece on, it's going to have the mint macaron at the top. Now this piece here is going to get attached to a piece of basic white, which is going to be the insert of our card, and this measures 10 centimeters by 14.4 centimeters, and we're going to adhere this flush to the outside edge of that white and top and bottom. So we can do that now. I just love this Whimsy and Wonder designer series paper. I'm looking at what I've got left, and I don't have much of it left, so I think I'm going to be ordering some more. So again, we just want to make sure that that is all nice and flush with that, and that our mint macaron is at the top to match this other side. So as you can see, that there just covers that, because we've gone this side a little bit longer, and we're going to now adhere this piece to the inside of our card. Wanting to make sure that we've got the same sort of distance between the bottom of our card to where our designer series paper is starting, all the way around. Once you're happy with that, just push that down, and again just give it a good rub on the back just to make sure that glue is all even. So that is that part of our card. Now I've already pre-cut 2 die cuts as the circles, and this is our large circle that we had before, same one that we used to cut our partial cut out there, and then I've taken the next size down to cut a second one. So this one here, we can add some glue onto the back of this, and we're going to pop that on top of our partial cut there on the front of our card. So that's just going to sit right over the top of that and sit nice and flush there. Okay, so that's just covering up that portion of the designer series paper and just giving a little bit more stability to our panel here that we've partially die cut. Now with our, smooth that one out of the road, with our second circle, we're going to take a blending brush. We're only using 1 or 2 ink colors today, and one of them is your Blushing Bride. And we're just going to add some colour to the edges of our circles. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of ink onto my blending brush. Just remove a bit of that surface ink off the brush and then just run around the edges. You can either wipe it around like that or in a circular motion, just coming in slightly. As you can see, I'm probably just doing a mixture of both of them, but I'm just wanting to darken up those edges a little bit, but also just sort of the center, still keeping it white, but just bring in a bit of color, a bit of that nice pink color in there. Okay, so once you're done that and you're happy with that, we're then going to take one of the snowflakes that comes in this suite. So that's the Wonderful Snowflakes, and I've already pulled one out here. It's just sitting underneath here. Grab that. Now you've got two different sides of these snowflakes. One side is a matte side that you can colour. The other side is a shiny side, and it has got a quite a sheen on it. So it will sort of I can't think of the word. It's almost like pearlized. So what we're going to do is pop a little bit of glue onto this. Now I'm only really going to be worrying about putting a bit of glue in the center, because by the time we add our other bits and pieces, it will glue this down, hold everything down in place. And I'm just going to pop this through the center just like that. So that's our little centerpiece done. Now while we have got our inks here, we might as well ink up our sentiments. So I've got a scrap piece of basic white here, and I'm just using the sentiment which says, "May the love of the season warm your home and fill your heart." So I just think that is such a nice sentiment, and we're going to stamp this in polished pink. So just gently inking that up. And making sure it's nice and straight. We can just stamp that, holding it down for a few seconds just to let that ink absorb into the paper. Oops, and I've rocked that. Let's try that again. This time we won't rock it. Just want to hold it still. Let that absorb in. Beautiful. It is a little bit crooked, but that's okay because we're going to die cut that. So we're going to bring in one of our die cuts from the Stitch So Sweetly, I think it was. Let me just double check. Yes, it's one of the dies from the Stitch So Sweetly, and if I remember correctly, it's about the second smallest. So just lining this up, and I'm going to use my tape again just to hold that in place. Over the top. Just move those out of the road, bring in our cut and emboss again. And this time it's just a simple cut. Now I've just got my handles on the wrong side, so let me just flip this around. There we go. pop that in there. And of course you could use your mini cut and emboss machine just to cut this little one out, because I had to use this for the big other part, so I had this handy. So but little mini one is great for this sort of thing. So let's pop this all out of the road. And actually we do have a little bit more cutting, and I might just bring in my mini one for that. Let's just pop those up and out of the road, because while we're doing our die cutting, and this is just that little mini one I was talking about, which is such a fantastically handy machine to have. Let's grab my plates that go with it. And we're going to cut some of these trees out. Now we need to cut 3. We've got one that's tall and then one which is a lot shorter and wider. So we're going to cut 2 of the tall ones and 1 of the short ones. And we're just using some scraps of Designer Series paper here. So I've got the mint macaron, the polished pink, and I've got a piece of the Misty Moonlight. But to make these a lot easier, what I've done is I've grabbed the adhesive sheets, which you can buy, and it comes in a pack of 12, and they will last you quite a while. And with these adhesive sheets, I've just put a piece of it on the back where I'm going to be cutting out, and that just because you've got these long thin pieces and it'd be very hard to put glue on there. So I'm going to take my adhesive sheet, just lay that on top of that, and I've actually got this to almost the right size. So grab my snips here, and I'm just going to cut this down to roughly the same size. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. You can go a little bit smaller, just don't really want to go any bigger. And we're going to peel the backing off. Now I always feel funny when I'm using this stuff, because the backing is actually the part that's got the adhesive on it. So the piece here on top, and I want to pop that onto there. So when you look at these sheets, don't know whether you can see it, but the sheets are actually about 6 inches wide, I think, and there's 2 cuts. There's one here and one there, and if I turn it over the right side you might be able to see it better. So they've got 2 cuts down there, and you can peel those pieces off, but your adhesive actually stays on that piece that you peel off. So the backing will have no adhesive on it, and that's the part you throw away, and the part that you attach to your cardstock is this top portion here where those splits are. I always feel like I'm doing it the wrong way around, but I'm using that because I always feel it should be the other way. But anyway, it all works. So I hope I'm not confusing you all. Put my scratched up one on the bottom. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut one, just work out where my pieces are. So I'm going to cut one of those smaller trees. This one here, I'm going to cut a bigger tree, but I don't need all of that, so I'm just going to get rid of some of that. Got some adhesive on the back of that one, so I'm going to pop that down there, pop that one in there, and we'll die cut those. Remove that, So there's our polished pink tree with the adhesive on it. And just got to get underneath that. There's our mint macaron one with the adhesive on it. And what we have left to do, we need one more in the blue. Now this does have a pattern on it of a tree. I'm not lining this up with the tree. I'm just really wanting the blue, but I'm just making sure my trees are up the right way. And I'm going to do another tall one. Tall one. Ooh. I might be doing this in a different order to what I did my first card. That's okay. My first card I did the mint macaron in a tall one as well, but did the misty moonlight in the shorter tree, but we're doing it the opposite way around this time. That's okay. So I'll pop that to one side. Pop that one out. So there's our trees, our sentiment, pop this die somewhere so we don't lose it. So we've got our trees, our 3 trees, so we've got 2 tall ones and a shorter one. We have our sentiment, and the only other thing we need is our bow. Now I wanted to show you how I made that bow. And a very lovely friend of mine showed us, a group of us, how to do this. Here we are. Here's my piece of ribbon. So this is also the ribbon that's in the suite. So I never know how to pronounce her name. Maswati, I think that's correct. I'm sure she'll correct me one day if I'm wrong. She showed us how to unravel this and make this really beautiful soft bow. She uses up all of these bits and pieces. And so let me show you. So I've got a length here which is around about 50 centimeters. So it's probably a lot more than what I need. And I'm just going to take the end of this and start pulling. And as you can see, it unravels really easily. Once you've got a certain amount of unraveled, what I suggest you to do is actually hold that. It will still keep unraveling for you because your ends, they're not cut, they're actually like little loops there, but they haven't got anything there to hold it, so it will keep still coming undone. But these are the pieces that we want for our bow. So we want to try not to lose them, and if you can keep them all together. So we're just going to pull all of this off. It's probably not the easiest sort of bow to make, but it's very, very effective. Almost to the end. So you end up with a pile like that, and don't throw that away because you can use that, and I'll show you, I'll explain to you what I've done with another card. And then these are all our little long fibres that we have left. Okay, so you want to hold on to those quite firmly. Now this is not the easiest thing to do, I will tell you that. I'm not going to say this was simple. It was a little bit fiddly. I noticed that some people do like bunny ears when they tie a bow. I haven't done bunny ears for a long time, and I was finding that a little bit difficult. So I was tying just a regular bow, but I've got to hold this quite firmly, and you can trim some of this excess away. But basically, I'm just going to tie a normal bow, but you've got all these little fibers, so you want to sort of hold on to things as much as you can so you don't sort of break all your fibers up and they go in different directions. See, as I said, it's not does take a little while. If you've got a bow maker, it would probably be easier too. So anyway, that one actually went together a lot easier than what I did earlier today. So once you've worked out your bow and the size you want, you can pull it tight. I have ended up with a couple of little fibers coming out where I didn't really want them, but I'm not going to be overly fussed with that. If anything, I can cut that away as long as I've got the bow size I want, which is around about that size. So that's how you can make one of these beautiful bows. And then once what you can do now, probably maybe make this a little bit smaller. So pull this down. Let's just judge it against this one. Yeah, that's probably about the size I want it now. And we can just give it a bit of a haircut. Just like that. So that is how I made my bow. Now with all this that's left over, what you can do, I did a card, I don't have it handy, but I did a card recently where I had one of the little Santa Clauses painted or coloured, and then I had underneath it some gold, looked like a gold lurex type thread, and what it was all this, and I actually wrapped it. So if I just use this card as to give you an idea, find the end of this somewhere, or not necessarily the end, but because I didn't like all that crinkle that's in it, and you can't really get rid of that. But if that was the front of your card and you wanted to wrap that around, you can get actually quite a nice effect because it's got that little bit of thick and thin, and then wrap that around and you could just adhere that at the back, and it just gives you a nice soft, you can spread it out, give you a nice, sort of a really nice little feathery type effect on a card. So all these sort of things is probably, you can keep them to a point. I'll sort of keep it for a little while, and if I don't use it, I will tend to probably throw it away. I tend to be a hoarder, so I've got to teach myself not to hoard. But yeah, it might come in handy, so don't throw it away too quickly before you decide what you're going to do. So let's get back in and bring our card back in. So we've got our little circle piece here, and we've got our Christmas trees. So what we're going to do is just peel the backing off. So our adhesive is now transferred to the back of our designer series paper. We're just going to peel that backing off, and then adhere these trees on top of that snowflake, and that will actually help hold that snowflake down. So with this card here, I did the polished pink and the mint macaron, and then the Misty Moonlight in the middle. But with this card, I'm going to put my Misty Moonlight one on the other side. but I'm not keeping them all at the same height. I am going to stagger their heights a little bit. So that one's going to go about there. Probably could have had that one. Let me just see. Oh, that would work out quite well, I think. And that one in the middle there, like that. So once you've got those on there, grab our card. We're going to put some dimensionals on the back of this. Now all these products, you can purchase them through my online store, which is at michelledutrissa.stampinup.net. I will put this video on my blog in the next few days, so if you want to rewatch it, you can there, and you will find links there also to all the products that I have used. Oops, let's move that out of the road. So then we're just going to, ooh, lost power. Okay, well, I'm assuming this is still going, so I'm going to just keep going. It's very, very windy outside at the moment, and whoops, and it looks like we're having a blackout. Okay, so I've put dimensionals on the back of that, and that is now on there. We need a glue dot. We're just going to pop a glue dot on the back of our bow at that, whoops, my fingernail got caught in that bow, unfortunately. And we're going to pop that bow just about underneath those trees, just like that. Let's just have a look. Just feel like that's off center a little bit, but that's okay. And we're going to pop some dimensionals onto the back of our sentiment. Now on this, I want a dimensional in that corner and in that corner. Let me just have a look. Where we're going to position that. So we want one there, and we can pop one there. So our sentiment is just going to go just over the top of, oops, I might just remove that one there, just might put him up a little bit higher, because we don't want a dimensional coming down onto here. We want it to stay just there like that. Just give that a little bit of a push there. I'm just going to, dimensionals just caught all those fibers from the bow, and I'm just going to see if I can just lift that off a little bit. without damaging the bow or the sentiment. No, it's not going to happen. That's fine. So there's our card. Probably what I would have liked is maybe to have that bow a little bit more up that way, but I just think that that's now just caught too much on that, on those fibers. Whoops, almost got it. There we go. Let's just see if I can. Yep. Probably my bow didn't turn out as well as what that nice one, first one did, but I've got a straggly hair there, so I'm just going to trim him out of the road. And we're going to pop 2 dimensionals, one on top of the other. Sometimes you've got to do a little bit of surgery to get these things right. So I've got 2 dimensionals there, one on top of the other. I'm just going to take the backing off both of them. Pop it in underneath there, just to hold that down. So that's my card. There's my card I made last night. You just move these things out of the road so you can clear desk so you can see. So I hope you've enjoyed that card. I hope you've got to see it all. I know my tablet has frozen, but that's nothing unusual lately. So have a go at making a flip card, and would love to see what you come up with. So take care. Bye for now.